Hello. My purpose is to talk with you about the partial fundoplication surgery and the need for it and what I've been going through since I had the surgery. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about what led up to the whole process for me. I was complaining, well, for years and years and years I complained about acid reflux. It was almost a constant daily type thing, especially most recently. But the so that was ongoing, and I was taking twice the amount of PPIs, a proton inhibitor, I think that's what it's called. Twice the amount that normally would be prescribed. I had to get special permission in order to be allowed to do this, and I was taking Protonix 40 milligrams in the morning and 40 milligrams at night. It still was not helping. I was going through a lot of distress, having Tums everywhere. I had it at work, I had it next to the bedside, I had it in the bathroom, I had it in cars, I had it everywhere you could think of, so that any of those breakthrough GERD or acid reflux would be taken care of with the addition of the Tums. And then I got to the point where my food was getting stuck. It would go down to a certain level, and then the food would just get stuck, and I'd have to drink something in order to force it down. And when it would force down, it did it with such pain, it made eating very difficult, swallowing very difficult. Eating, it was okay, but by the time you realized you needed to drink something, it was usually one or two bitefuls after you should have stopped. But anyway, so I went to the doctor, primarily complaining, the gastrointestinal doctor, primarily complaining not about the GERD, although that was bothering me every night, and I'd wake up coughing because it was getting into my lungs, getting into my vocal cords, and while that was a big complaint, the most recent complaint was really about the food not going down, and it got to the point where I was afraid to drink any more water to force the food down, because I was afraid I was going to drown myself. So I went in. He went down. Yes, he did find what they call a stricture, a narrowing of the esophagus. And that narrowing, by the way, is caused by acid reflux. So hence, the big problem was the acid reflux, not necessarily the stricture. But he cleared the stricture by going down with the endoscopy and ballooning it up. And so after the ballooning, then he put a capsule, as I understand it, a capsule, attached it to the bottom of my esophagus. And that capsule over the next 2 days was catching information. As I understand it, it was one piece of information was the number of times I was experiencing GERD or acid reflux in a given 24-hour period of time. And since it was 2 days, it was a 48-hour period of time. As well as the intensity of the acid that was being produced. Now, normally you should be producing like less than 15% acidity, or I guess that's the meter that they use. But normally it should be under 15%. Mine on day 1 was like 60%, and then on day 2 was like 84%. The second thing that the capsule tested for was the number of occurrences. On the first day, I had, let's see, the first day was 80 occurrences of GERD, 80. The second 24-hour period of time, I had 104. So 104 separate occasions that, my esophagus experienced the acid going back up into it. When I was referred over to the gastrosurgeon, he looked at my results and he said, these numbers, he said, you're way off the charts as far as someone who needs to have this procedure, the fundoplication procedure. He said, you're way off the charts, but you're an ideal candidate. And quite frankly, if you don't get it, you could aspirate, asphyxiate, aspirate, choke in the middle of the night. It was even happening before I was going to sleep. I was laying down and then all of a sudden it would come up, and basically the sphincter was so wide open, it was just allowing for acid reflux to occur all the time. And so I was an ideal candidate. I went in to get it done, and I'm going to talk to you in the next video. I'm going to do this one now, the second one, to show you and talk to you about what happened after the procedure, and whether I was well informed, not well informed, or maybe it was just forgotten, to tell me something, a thing or two. But I'll talk about that in the next video. Okay. All right.